from the headquarters of Telesia English in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Soini Gray. U.S. President Donald Trump has called off his much-anticipated summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong Un, scheduled for June 12th in Singapore. In a letter released by the White House, Trump says, quote, "It is inappropriate at this time to have this long-planned meeting. The decision comes after days of accusation and tension between the U.S. and the North Korean administrations." However, in the letter, Trump also told Kim, "Someday I look very much forward to meeting you." On Thursday, prior to this announcement, the North Korean government started to destroy nuclear test tunnels at the Punji site. Foreign journalists were invited by the North Korean regime to witness the event. It was a move reportedly aimed at reducing regional tensions. Independent inspectors, however, were not allowed to access the site, which, according to Pyongyang, has now been dismantled. The South Korean government has welcomed the news.
The government welcomes North Korea's dismantlement of its Punji nuclear test site that was conducted on Thursday, May 24. This is the first meaningful step towards the complete denuclearization of North Korea.
It's a big day in Barbados. Polling stations opened at 6 this morning for the general elections. Over 200,000 voters will choose the country's next prime minister and the members of the House of Representatives. People began queuing up since 5 this morning. The voting started at 6 a.m. when the polls opened and will continue until 6 p.m. when the polls close. The election is a straight fight between the incumbent Frundle Stewart from the Democratic Labour Party and Mia Mottley from the opposition Barbados Labour Party. There are 5 other political parties and several independent candidates in the race, making it a total of 135 candidates. The DLP is seeking a third term in office, while the BLP is looking to make history by electing Mia Mottley as the country's first female prime minister. And as people cast their vote, our correspondent Lara Prado traveled across the capital, Bridgetown, and spoke with people to get a feel of their emotions this election day.
Bridgetown is ready for the general elections of this May 24th. Ramad feels optimistic about the results.
My expectations are the Barbados Labour Party to win the government of Barbados 2018, definitely.
Why?
Because when they left office in 2008, the Democratic Labour Party, which is the party that's in now, had a healthy economy, and now we don't have a healthy economy, and a lot of people in Barbados are losing a lot of jobs. Our cost of living is very, very high, and productivity work-wise is very, very low, and people feel very, very unmotivated to be in Barbados now as Barbadians. So, you know, when a country is experiencing this, then it's time for a new direction.
Barbadians showed their support for their preferred candidates for deputies and prime minister, and are confident about that being the path that will stabilize the country's economy and secure their jobs.
Well, I want my representative to win, also his seat, and also want me around the country.
On Hero Square in the center of Bridgetown, stages were set waiting for the end of the campaigns. Few hours before the elections, there are still some who remain skeptical.
Basically, I'm not really expecting anything from the elections, any different changes or not, because both is do the same to me. Usually, when the government change or whatever, they just try to make it better, but I still gotta go and work hard and support myself, so it doesn't make a difference to me if the B's or the D's get in.
With tranquility are lived the last hours before it is decided on the polls who will occupy the 30 seats of the parliament that will give to the leader of the winning party the post of prime minister that will rule Barbados for the next 5 years. Lara Prado, Telesur, Bridgetown, Barbados.
We now go live to our correspondent Lara Prado, who's in Barbados covering the elections. Hi Laura, it's been more than 5 hours since the poll opened. How's it going?
Hello, Sayuri, nice to greet you. Indeed, right now I'm standing outside the Barbados Community College here in Bridgetown, and as you can see behind me, behind that mural wall there is the path towards the polling center that is placed here. And as you were saying, as part of those 255,000 Barbadians that are called to vote, some of them are coming here to express their wishes for the next coming years on the polls to decide who is going to be the next prime minister or continue being the prime minister and who will occupy the 30 seats of the parliament. I want to repeat again that in these elections are participating 9 political parties and 10 other independent candidates. Also, that these elections are characterized by the large number of candidates, as you were saying, 135, and of those 37 are women. Also, these numbers are very interesting if we compare them to the elections in 2013, when only 4 political parties presented and to participate to this election and 4 other independent candidates. Today, in newspaper, the supervisor of the electoral supervisor of the lecture, Angela Taylor, she was saying that electoral authorities were trained to use a new software, an election managed system that will allow them to enter the results of this election. Today, we've also spoken with some voters outside of the polling stations, and they were saying some of them are pro-BPL, the Barbadian Labourist Party, and others are very fondly to continue that the Prime Minister Fremdel Stuart continues ahead of the government of the island, Soyini. We've been moving around and we've been very it's been very interesting to see that people were mostly in the very early hours of the time when polling stations open at 6 a.m. There were a little queues, but throughout the day until now, 40 minutes, they are gradually coming to vote, but we think that this is a good time, is a good election, is very calm. Police officer, only one police officer is in charge of the polling station. For example, in this point where we are, we had to move a little bit further from the Barbadian Community College, because we were required to be 100 yards away from the entrance. So we've been here, we've taken some images, and we'll be continue moving throughout the island, and it's expected that in the upcoming hours, the actual Prime Minister Fremdel Stuart and the opposition leader Mia Motley will exercise their right to vote, and we are going after them to see that moment when they vote.
Thank you so much for that report, Lara Prado. That was our Lara Prado live from Barbados. More stories now. Dr. Don Marshall is the director of the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies in Barbados. He joins us live from the Cayville campus of the university to discuss the elections. Dr. Marshall, thank you so much for joining us. Can I force you into a prediction? Who do you think is going to win today?
I think it's a strange election, this one, in that the Barbados Labour Party, which is the opposition led by Mia Motley, has led a successful campaign in terms of optics, in terms of the use of social media, and I think their message has resonated quite a bit in terms of the policy errors that the incumbent government has made. However, the incumbent government is a mass-based party, and in the last election, they canvassed as many as 78,000 votes, and the opposition party 74,000 votes. And never mind that the seat spread was 16-14, it still showed that there is, in this small country, overwhelming support, deep-seated support for the incumbent government. However, it's 2 terms. It's had 2 terms. There's been some mild austerity. We are steering the possibility of an engagement with the IMF. So regardless of who wins, that is going to be a major struggle going forward, as the campaign has not been so much about more austerity, but an ease, more relief, jobs for young persons and so on.
Dr. Marshall,
However,
let me ask you, I wanted to go back to one of the first points you made. You said it was a very strange campaign. Can you expand on that? What was so strange about the campaign?
Well, it was strange insofar as the opposition party is being led into this election for the first time without its much popular leader, Owen Arthur. He was a prime minister for 14 years, and he's led them, as I said, in the last 5 campaigns. And with a particular kind of style of campaigning that's a bit different from the one being led by Mayor Motley, which is based on rallies, use of social media, and attempts to ensure that there are crowds there to help mobilize optics on the ground and through social media. So in that sense, it's a new age kind of campaigning, and where the Democratic Labour Party or the incumbent government appears still stuck in a past mode of campaigning, relying on persons to come out to their campaigns and so on. So they haven't used social media very much. That's one. The other thing is that both parties are speaking about the IMF. One is the opposition is suggesting that they will go immediately to the IMF, even as it is announcing a number of programs that involve a high amount of government spending. The incumbent government is saying steady as you go, and they will go to the IMF as a last resort. So while there are winds of change in favor of a new female prime minister and some ease to austerity, the independent opinion would have it that Barbados still has to brace itself for a bit more austerity if either of them do approach the IMF.
Thank you so much, Dr. Marshall. You actually forecasted my second question, because I needed to ask you about that IMF issue and also the issue of the dwindling foreign reserve. I understand that Barbados has been having some challenges, and I was going to ask you how, well, let me still ask you, how are you happy with how the parties are handling the financial issues? Okay, it seems that we've actually ended that call with Dr. Marshall. So we are going to take a very quick break and join us again after a look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro met with the former presidential candidate Javier Bertucci at the Miraflores Palace in the capital Caracas on Wednesday. Bertucci recognized the results that were announced by the National Electoral Council and advocated for the national dialogue. The Minister of Communication, Jorge Rodriguez, said that his discussion with the president was fruitful and described it as the first of many. Rodriguez also encouraged constructive action to find solutions to the political, economic and social problems that Venezuela is experiencing.
President Nicolas Maduro's first proposal after being re-elected is to ask for an in-depth dialogue, where all sides can freely speak their opinion, but in a constructive way, and always looking for solutions for the economic, political and social problems Venezuela is facing right now. We already had a successful meeting, hopefully the first of many. Former candidate and social leader Javier Bertucci shared his point of views during his meeting with President Nicolas Maduro.
We now go live to our correspondent Ian Bruce in Caracas, where President Nicolas Maduro is about to address the National Constituent Assembly. Hello, Ian. What are we expecting today from the National Constituent Assembly and the President?
Good morning, Soini. Yes, we're here at the Parliament building in the center of Caracas, where very shortly we're expecting President Nicolas Maduro to come and present his credentials to the National Constituent Assembly. Now, those are the credentials that he received on Tuesday from the Electoral Council, declaring him president re-elected for the period 2019 to 2025. So what we're expecting is that he will swear his commitment to carry out those duties. It seems to be a kind of pre-swearing in because, of course, the period itself starts in January, on January the 10th, in fact, 2019. You'll recall that these elections were brought forward as part of the attempt to
Okay, so we're having some issues with that live with Ian Bruce. We may go back to him before the newscast is over. We're going to switch to other news now. With 3 days until the presidential election in Colombia, several pollsters have presented analysis ahead of the vote. Despite the state council denounced fraud in the 2014 and last March legislative elections, the registrar has insisted that they were clean. So let's have a look at how people feel about the Colombian polls.
Pollsters have played an important role in this presidential election. While some criticize it, others defend its projections.
In Colombia, the surveys are more precise and sophisticated. They try to go to more diverse places. 10 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to see surveys of only 4 cities of the country. Today, the samples try to go to towns and ask different people from the country.
This is why some presidential candidates are asking for political control.
As a measuring instrument, it is necessary to control it, and that is what the law lays out. I think the National Electoral Council should exercise these controls, and it should be an unbiased institution, not influenced by political parties.
Some analysts say that these polls are a significant measure of opinion ahead of this election.
The polls determine the vote for a lot of people that are still undecided, because sometimes their favorite is not doing well in the polls, so they decide to go for another candidate that will have more chances to win. So this strategic vote is really important.
However, in this political contest, most Colombians don't trust the polls. The polls, reliable or not, currently hold candidate Iván Duque at 41.5% against Gustavo Petro's 29.5%.
No, when I go to vote, I don't care about the polls.
No, when I go to vote, I don't care about the polls.
I think the polls lie, and I don't trust them.
The State Council and the MOE, which has independently monitored elections since 2007, have been calling on the registry and CNE to urgently reinforce the vote counting software since February. Gustavo Petro, whose anti-corruption crusade has led to the incarceration of dozens of corrupt politicians over the past 15 years, reiterated on Wednesday that he will call for a massive protest if on Sunday there are indications of fraud in the first round.
Also in Colombia, the municipalities of Cáceres and Terrassa remain on emergency alert after the floods caused by the Hydro Ituango Dam. Our correspondent Tatiana Patella tells us the latest.
Saludos a usted, compañeros, y a los televidentes.
Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos has flown over the Hidroituango Dam. He also had a meeting with the Ministry of Environment, the mayor of Medellín, the governor of Antioquia, and Jorge Londoño, the manager of the Public Services Company of Colombia. Londoño had to present a report over the serious situation in Ituango. What is said in the meeting is that a 410-meter-high wall has been completed. The wall can hold the waters of the Hidroituango Dam, which means that the alert in the municipalities of Cáceres and Tarazá has been reduced from red to yellow. President Santos has confirmed that people who live in those municipalities can go back to their communities. He also confirmed that people who live in Puerto Valdivia are still on red alert, and he has asked them to wait to return. The Foundation Paz Rios Vivos has said the key decisions being made regarding the Hidroituango Dam do not involve the community. It also said that in the municipalities of Cáceres and Tarazá, even though the red alert is not in place anymore, people are still concerned. This crisis has left almost 24,000 people in a critical situation.
Now, in Nicaragua, the national dialogue between the government of Daniel Ortega and the opposition was suspended on Wednesday due to the lack of consent between the parties. Institutions such as the Organization of American States and the Catholic Church said that early elections are the only way to restore peace, while Ortega's government said they are trying to organize a soft coup d'etat. Our correspondent, Maria Jose Diaz from Managua, brings us more.
On Wednesday, the national dialogue taking place in the Church of Our Lady of Fatima between the government, students, and the private business sector was suspended. No agreements were reached between the parts, although the Episcopal Conference mediating the talks proposed to create a commission of 6 people to try to reach an agreement and resume the dialogues as fast as possible. The commission would be formed by 3 representatives of the government and 3 representatives from the other parties. Nicaragua's Foreign Minister Denis Moncada has warned that the agenda set for the dialogue is just a route to a coup d'etat. Meanwhile, demonstrations have continued around the country and left several injured. Opposition demonstrators are marching today again to demand a national strike. We will be informing you about when the dialogue will resume.
Now in Brazil, truck drivers continue to strike against high fuel prices. Highways have been blocked since Monday in at least 24 out of 27 states. Oil state company Petrobras announced it will reduce 10% of diesel prices for the next 15 days. But truck drivers are urging Michel Temer's government to find lasting solutions to the problem, which were caused by the increase of oil prices in international markets and the sharp devaluation of Brazil's currency. Truck drivers said the demonstration will last at least until Friday.
I'm in favor of the strike because we can't go on with high diesel prices. Diesel costs 4 reais with various hikes. If there are no conditions to work in the country, how are we going to survive that way?
Nobody can take it anymore. Why are we going to work if we can't even make enough to eat? It's difficult to work that way. They steal and we have to pay for it. No one can take it anymore.
In Guatemala, 4 retired high-ranking military officials have been condemned to over 30 years imprisonment over crimes against humanity committed during the Civil War. They were accused of forced disappearances, rape and torture. Dozens of activists celebrated the verdict while relatives of the accused decried it and sang the army's anthem in protest. The Civil War in Guatemala lasted from 1960 to 1996. According to the Historical Clarification Commission, it left at least 200,000 people dead, 45,000 disappeared, and around 100,000 displaced. Time now for a second break, but join us again after another look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. Let's have a look at some of the other stories making headlines around the world.
Italian President Sergio Mattarella has approved political novice Giuseppe Conte to be the country's next prime minister. The announcement of the new government formed by the far-right Northern League Party and the anti-establishment Five-Star Movement has ended the 2 months of political deadlock after March's inconclusive general election.
My intention is to give life to a government of the people and to look after their interests. I am a lawyer, and throughout my life I have taken care of many people. I am preparing myself now to defend the interests of all Italians in all places, in Europe and internationally.
Federal prosecutors in New York, United States have started a sex crime investigation into Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. More than 80 women, many of them famous actresses, have accused Weinstein of sexual abuse. The allegation started an international anti-harassment movement, which became famous last year with the hashtag #MeToo. The U.S. National Football League has said that under a new policy, teams will be fined if players decide to kneel while the U.S. national anthem is played. The new policy comes after a trend was set up after San Francisco 49ers Colin Kaepernick kneeled during the anthem in 2016. Kaepernick said he did it as a protest against his country's brutality against minorities.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at talisyourtv.net/English. You should also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Talis Your English, I'm Sonia Gray. Thank you so much for watching.